Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. Today on the 21st of Dhul Hijjah in the year 1443, corresponding to the 20th of July 2022, we are in the book Wajeez, the concise presentation of the fiqh, in the chapter of criminal offences on page 618, starting the subheading, retaliation is from the duties of the ruler. Al-Qurtubi stated, there is no difference of opinion concerning the fact that the law of retaliation is to be carried out by those in authority. It is obligatory upon them to implement the law of retaliation, the required punishments and other laws, as Allah has demanded all of the believers to fulfill the law of retaliation, while at the same time the believers are not all in a position to implement the law of retaliation. Hence, the ruler stands in the place of the believers in implementing the law of retaliation and other required punishments.
Bismillah. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa mawala. Before I just continue explaining, can you just finish as well? Do you have more?
Sawi.
Yes, all of it, just finish.
Al-Sawi, in his notes to the Quranic commentary known as Al-Jalalain, has explained this point in the following manner. When it is confirmed that the murder was deliberate and intentional, it becomes obligatory upon the Islamic ruler to give power to the relatives of the victim over the murderer. The ruler is to enact whatever the relative chooses, be it retaliation, pardon, or blood money. It is not permissible for the relative on his own to inflict a punishment on the murderer without the permission of the ruler, as this would cause great harm and chaos. If the guardian does kill him before he receives the authority of the ruler, he is to face a discretionary punishment.
Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Basically, this is a title to say that the ruler is the one who is supposed to be implementing the law of qisas, which is taking the punishment. The reason behind this, why the law is to be in the hands of the sultan or the leader or the ruler, is that number one, that he is the one who is empowered to bring the killer for the sake of the ones who are the family of the killed one to take their decision, whether they want to kill him or whether they want to pardon him or whether they want to take the blood money. And no way that for the family of the killed person just to go by themselves and go and search for the killer and bring him to justice, because this will bring chaos. This is the jungle law. You have to have a person who is in charge in order to bring the law in just and bring the law to an effect without causing havoc or chaos. There's no such thing that I will be doing the work of the police and go and search for the killer and bring him to justice. So the first reason why it's going to be by the presence of the Sultan. The justice will be brought because he will be, as I said, empowered to bring the killer before the family of the killed one in order to decide. Number two, also the reason for this is that he will remind the Sultan, the family of the killed one, of pardoning. So he will remind them that the Prophet ﷺ had pardoned, and the Prophet of Allah, according to the hadith, anything to do with retaliation, he would always encourage and prompt the family of the one who had the person being killed to pardon. So the pardoning will be done by the leader. And you remember the story that took place at the time of the Prophet ﷺ when a person dragged a person, you remember, with Nas'a to the Prophet of Allah, and he said that he had killed my brother, yes? And the Prophet ﷺ asked that man, did you kill him? Before he answered, the one who is holding him, he said, if he's not going to confess, I'm going to bring a proof. I'll bring a proof. So he said, I've killed him. But another narration adds, yes, I've killed the messenger of Allah, but I did not intend to kill him. So how did you do that? He said, we were together bashing, remember, hitting the trees in order for the leaves to fall down. So he insulted me and I was provoked. And I got my axe, hit him on the side of his head. I didn't mean to kill him, but it ended up that he died. So the Prophet ﷺ asked him, "Could you have anything to offer for the diya?" He said, "Nothing." So what about your family? Would they be able to, pay on your behalf? He said, "My family would pay them nothing. They're not, I'm worth nothing for them." So the Prophet ﷺ, he gave the rope where the man, he gave it to the man who was the brother of the killed one. Suit yourself, whatever you like. When he left, Prophet ﷺ said, if he had killed him, then he would be just like the same one as that person when he killed his brother. When the man had heard, he came back to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Messenger of Allah, I've heard you just said what you said, and you gave me the rope, to do whatever I like." He said, don't you want for that person to bear the sin of yours and the sin of your brother who was being killed? He said, "Yes, Messenger of Allah." He said, "Then let it be." So he let go of the rope. He said, "You're free." So the reason why the Prophet ﷺ said what he said, because the man, he said, "By Allah, I did not intend to what? To kill him." And he did not ask for a proof from his brother to say that he had killed him, because even if you've seen a proof that he had killed him, but you don't know was he intending to kill him or not, because he hit him with a bat, with a piece of wood. Okay, so so it has to be that he had hit him in somehow. He was unfortunate in an area where it was fatal. Otherwise, it will not be fatal. So we didn't want him to kill him. So when he hit him, he didn't want him to kill him, even though the act itself is what? Is a killer. So the Prophet said, if you want to kill him, it's up to you, because if you think that he had killed him deliberately, it's up to you. Then he said to him to pardon. Also, when we give the law in the hands of the Sultan will prevent the person to do extravagance in the killing. So let's say, for example, that this person was killed through a sword. So the family of the killed one, they will come and ask up for retaliation. And can Ahmed just ask you to come here, please? So, yeah, here in the middle with your chair. Please, can you just go forward, fill up the gaps, Ikhwan. So, except for the one who wants to the back. So basically, the person who has been killed, he was killed instantly with a sword. Now, if we're going to let the go ahead without the Sultan, this person might, for example, start killing him by a small knife, and that would torture the killer before he is killed. We want justice. And the Sultan will try to make the justice as possible. We're not going to be saying 100%, because we don't know how fast was the sword or the tool by which that killer had killed him with, how fast in killing him. We don't know. So this amr ijtihadi, you try to deduce the best of opinions, but you can't arrive to the correct one 100%. That's why the leader is there to cover, to make sure that it is done in the best of ways. Yes, they're going to be 100%, but close to 100%, rather than to leave it to you to take the law in your hand. And then because you had the grudge in your heart, because your family, next of kin, he had been killed, you want to basically not just kill him, you're going to kill him with rage, isn't it? And that rage, it might bring more injustice. You understand me? So because this person is in rage, I don't want him to be killed quickly. I want him to taste the death. Huh? So you just don't strike him fully, strike him halfway, so half of his neck is gone, and you leave the other half to take him another strike. And that's where the Sultan will prevent that. That's another way why we say the Sultan has to be present. Now, if this person is to take his revenge, it has to be taking revenge in front of the leader. So if this killed, or the family of the killed person, took justice without the leader presence, or without the leader allowing them to do so, they will be punished. They're not going to be killed. So let's say, I'm just saying, the killer, was caught by the family of the killed one. And they had decided to implement the law in their hands. So they killed the killer. Are they going to be killed? Are they going to be killed? No, because you remember, for the retaliation to take place, it had to be fulfilling 3 conditions. One of the conditions is that the person was being killed, his blood is being protected by the law, but his blood is not protected by the law. He's a killer. But they will be punished for what? For taking the punishment in their own hands. They will be punished. Ta'zir. Maybe whipped for 10 lashes or whatever, because they have taken the law in their hands. But they're not going to be killed. Because remember, the one who's killer, his blood is not lawful anymore. It's not protected. But now, the Sultan also, when the retaliation takes place in his presence, he will look at the tool by which the retaliation will take place. So if it's, for example, it's a dagger he's being killed with, he will look at the dagger. Is it how long it is, how sharp it is? He makes sure that the tool is a tool which will not impose any sort of pain on the killer. It has to be justice, ya ikhwan. It has to be justice. So he will basically look at the tool by which the killing will take place with, the retaliation will take place. But now if the wali, which is the next of kin to the killed one, is unable to take his revenge. So let's say this person is unable to lift up the sword and kill that person because he had killed his brother or his son, okay, with his father, he killed him with the sword. He's not strong enough to hold the sword. Okay. Remember, the retaliation takes place by the hands of the one who's next of kin, but in front of the judge, in front of the leader, the sultan, person who's in authority. But this person is unable because maybe he's weak. Maybe he hasn't got a hand to carry. His hand is cut off. He can't have a retaliation. He's allowed to appoint, this is right, to appoint someone to take his revenge. Whether he appoint somebody who goes to the gym, muscle man or not. Okay? And if that person is not willing to go ahead and be deputized by the family of the killed one to kill or to take the retaliation, except by paying, then the government will pay. Do you understand that? So I'm the family of the killed one. I want to take retaliation, but I'm not powerful enough. I'm weak. So I'm having the option now to appoint someone. Appointed someone, but he's asking for money. This money will be paid from Baytul Mal, from the treasury of the House of Treasury. House of Treasury. There are some retaliations. They don't need the presence of the Sultan. They don't need retaliation. Like, for example, person peeping through the keyhole of your door. I'm not going to bring the Sultan to go and poke his eye. Prophet ﷺ had guaranteed for me that if this guy is peeping from my door, go with a rod, with an arrow or something, and poke his eye from behind the door. And the Muslim country, not here, Muslim country, will not tell you anything. Will not take, sort of retaliation against you because you've popped up his eyes. No, because he was peeping. And the Prophet ﷺ said, and he'd done this, he saw somebody peeping, and he came with, okay, and he opened the door. He said, I almost poked your eye. I almost poked your eye. And he said as well, if somebody did this, there is no blood money to be paid. By the way, this is not pushing air towards us. Maybe this one, because I'm sweating. We need a fan, as I said. We need a fan. Maybe the helicopter, Abdurrahman. Now we need to bring something, inshallah, here as quickly as possible. We need to bring fans. The AC is just makes cool, but it doesn't push air here. Yeah, the good, but it's cold. We need it's too cold, if you understand as well. Fan is important. But never mind. Second, another issue as well. You remember when you pray, what happened if you pray? Let's say that you pray towards a sutra. A person came to cross. What should I do? Prevent it. Second time. Prevent it. Third time as well. Fight him. I could push him. So I could, like this. I don't mean to hurt him. But if I did this and let's say, he was weak. He fell and there was a stone behind him. He died. Nothing on me. I didn't push him to go and kill him. And this happened at the time of the companions. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri had done it. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri had done this. And I'm going to narrate the story for you. This is in Sunan al-Nasa'i, in the chapter under what that is, he had the one who had retaliated and taken his due right without the presence of the Sultan. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu. He was seen on the day of Jumu'ah praying to a sutra. And then a young man from the family of Abi Mu'ayyid, or the children of Abi Mu'ayyid, he wanted to cross between him and his sutra. Abu Sa'id, he pushed in his chest. So the young man, he insisted that he has to cross between him and his sutra. So he repeated that action. Abu Sa'id, he pushed him harder than the first one. So he insulted Abu Sa'id. The young man insulted Abu Sa'id. Then he entered upon Marwan al-Hakam. Marwan al-Hakam, he was the leader at that time. And he had complained to him what he had taken as a punishment from Abu Sa'id. He didn't let me, he pushed me hard in my chest. So Abu Sa'id entered just behind him on the Khalifa, or the mayor, Abu Marwan. So he said, Marwan to him, what happened, Abu Sa'id? Why you really, what's wrong with you, between you and the son of your brother? Son of your brother as in brother in Islam. He said, well, I've heard the Prophet ﷺ saying, if one of you is to pray to a sutra, then any person who wants to pass between him and the sutra, then let him push him away. Let him push him away to basically break between him and the sutra. If he refused the second time, then let him fight him. For verily he's a shaitan. For verily he's what? He's a shaitan, or shaitan is with him. So that tells us as well that there's some retaliation. It doesn't need the presence of the Sultan. We gave you two examples. We can take more than examples of this. Now we're coming to the following title. Al-Qisasu fi Madun al-Nafs.
Retaliation for injuries less than the loss of life.
So before we're talking about the loss of life, somebody killed somebody in retaliation. Now we want to talk about retaliation is to do that. He broke my bone, he poked my eye, broke his nose, cut my ear, all of that. What should we do? Are you cold? Yeah? Are you cold? Okay.
In the same way that there is retaliation for loss of life, there is also retaliation for injuries that are less than that.
Can I just ask you to put it in number 1, the fan? Because I think it's number 3 or number fan wise. Yeah, because it's noisy. Huh? Number 1. It's one of the old ones. Yeah. Now it's better. Sure, noisy. Yeah, go ahead.
In the same way that there is retaliation for loss of life, there is also retaliation for injuries that are less than that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, وكتبنا عليهم فيها أن النفس بالنفس والعين بالعين والأنف بالأنف والأذن بالأذن والسن بالسن والجروح قصاص. And we ordained therein for them life for life, eye for eye, nose for nose, ear for ear, tooth for tooth, and wounds equal for equal. This ruling, although it is in relation to the nations before us, also applies to us, as the Prophet ﷺ approved of it. Bukhari and Muslim record on the authority of Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu that Rubayy' bint an-Nadr ibn Anas broke an incisor tooth of a slave girl. They asked them to accept.
They were tough players. By the way, Rubayy' she done this more than once. Nah.
They asked them to accept compensation, but they will not accept anything except retaliation.
That means what? To break her tooth as well.
Her brother Anas ibn an-Nadr came and said,
Anas ibn an-Nadr is the companion whom he was martyred in the battle of Uhud, radiallahu anhu. Whom the one that Anas ibn Malik, his nephew, he said, my uncle Anas ibn Nadr, I believe he's one of those people whom Allah Azza wa Jal revealed the following verse. مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ رِجَالٌ صَدَقُوا مَا عَهْدُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ. From the believers, there are men who were truthful to their covenant. فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى نَحْبَهُ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرُ وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. And some of them, they have already had fulfilled the covenant, they becoming a martyr, and some of them still are waiting to be a martyr, and they did not change. Did not change the deen. So he's Anas ibn Nadr radiallahu anhu ardah, whom had been killed in a way that he was mutilated, so much that nobody knew who he is except by his sister through his what? His fingertip. For his fingertip, she knew this is a brother, because he was so disfigured, disformed, all his face being cut and all of this. Now,
her brother Anas ibn an-Nadr came and said, O Master of Allah, is a Rubay's tooth to be broken? by the one who sent you with the truth, her incisor tooth will not be broken.
This is not a challenge to the Prophet ﷺ. Something to the Prophet, are we going to have retaliation by breaking the teeth of my sister? By Allah, the tooth of my sister will never be broken. He's not here challenging the Prophet ﷺ. No. He's saying that he's so powerful in his iman in Allah Azza wa Jal that there will be some revelation to cancel this retaliation of breaking the tooth of his sister. Now, here the Prophet of Allah is telling him, Ya Anas, O Anas.
The Prophet ﷺ told him, O Anas, the book of Allah obligates retaliation.
That means, come on, Anas. What are you talking about? The book of Allah says retaliation. How come you're saying, by Allah, the tooth of my sister will not be broken?
But then her people were satisfied and forgave Rubayya.
So that's what it was. It wasn't actually something that made Anas from inside to protect his sister, which Allah had responded to, which is dua. And those people had pardoned. If they didn't pardon, sorry. Sorry, Anas, your sister's incisors will be broken. Now,
the Messenger of Allah ﷺ then said, among Allah's servants, there are some whom, if they swear by Allah, Allah will fulfill what they swore to.
They swear by Allah, no, they swear upon Allah. لو أقسم على الله, not أقسم بالله. That they say, oh Lord, upon you, oh Lord, fulfill this for me. And make an oath upon Allah, and Allah is giving them. When you ask Allah Azza wa Jalla for the Firdaus, do you say, please, oh Lord, give me the Jannah? You say, give me Jannah. Grant me Jannah, oh Lord. You have to affirmative in your dua, not to, if you wish, if you don't wish, take me out to hellfire. No, don't do that. اللهم إني أسألك الفردوس والجنة وما قرب إليه من عمل قول أو عمل. طيب. Prophet ﷺ also, he did retaliation. If you remember the story of Al-Uraniyin. Al-Uraniyun, a people who came as becoming Muslims to the Prophet ﷺ, and they were something wrong with their belly, stomach. They were going to the toilet, stomach aches and all of that. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, best remedy for you is to drink the milk of the she-camel mixed with the urine of the she-camel. Then he pointed out for them to go to the shepherds who are in charge of the camels, which is being given to the Islamic State through sadaqat and zakawat. Zakah. So the zakah money is like sometimes sheep, sometimes as well cows, sometimes camels, but most likely it would be camels and sheep. So they went to the shepherds and they have taken from that medicine, which is the she-camel luqah, meaning the 3 months she-camel should give birth for 3 months. Within the first 3 months, you take the milk, mix it up with the urine. They drank it and they have become very healthy. When they became very healthy, it became apostate. And not only that, what they did, they had killed the shepherd by what? Not straight away, by putting nails in their eyes. So what the Prophet did, he did the same to them. He heated the nails, poked them in their eyes, and left them in the desert to die. So it's not a horrible, barbaric act. No, it's because of they did to them, he did the same thing. And retaliation, ya ikhwani, it gives you the taste of calming your revenge or your rage. If somebody's just going to punch me in my eye and poke my eye and he's got rich and I'll pay the money, you're not going to feel just if you're poor. You want to poke his eye as well. Just like he poked my eye, I want to poke his eye. That's justice. And that would as well be a deterrence. If you remember what I said, deterrence for any person. If he's got money, sorry, but there will be retaliation. So the retaliation is what? To suppress the rage that you've got. You broke my tooth, I'm going to break the tooth. So as long as the conditions are being fulfilled, we'll see the conditions as well, because not all the injuries that will be, for example, if it made a cut like this, I can't make a cut because a cut, you don't know what's going to do. It has to be like, for example, I cut the hand from here. If I cut the hand from the middle, from here, for example, I was aggressive and I cut the person from here. Okay, it's not from the, what's it called, the joint. All right. Now, I'm not allowed to cut it from here, because if I cut from here, it's going to be the same. There will be transgression. or maybe not retaliation in 100%. So because of that, I am forced to do one of the two things. One of them is what? To accept blood money. And second one, anybody could tell me? Yalla, bismillah. If he cut me here, if I cut him here, cut him in the joint and take blood money for the rest. Yes. So I will cut him from the, he will cut me from the joint if I'm the aggressive one. So he's got the retaliation. He could accept from here, and then he will take a judgment. How much is that left? But I can't come from here because, as I said, it might lead to more a sort of fatal injury and kill the person instead of cutting his hand. Because you're not going to get justice 100%. But here is a joint. You cut it on the joint. So if he cut me from here, he's allowed to cut me from here and then take the rest as a blood money, if he wishes, or to pardon if you wish. But this is how Islam is precise. He wants to give you justice. وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. There is a living life for you in retaliation, O people of understanding. So it's not barbaric, it's actually to prevent such an act. Because if there is a 5-hotel prison for somebody to poke my eye, you're going to poke the other, you're going to come out and poke somebody else's eye. Because you're going to end up with another 5-star hotel. Whether it's 5-star or 1-star, it's going to have PlayStation in it, it's going to have so on top of poking my eye, he's going to go to the prison, have food and enjoy himself and come back and then learn how to poke more people. No, Islam doesn't do that. That's with the justice, ya ikhwan. Because it's not man-made law, it's Islamic law. طيب. Let's go to the condition, a strict condition where the retaliation will take place. Fadal.
The prerequisites for implementing the law of retaliation for injuries and wounds. The following conditions must be met before the law of retaliation for injuries is implemented. Number 1, the one who caused the injury must be a legal, responsible, adult, sane person.
Okay. So there is no retaliation on a person who is not an adult, child. There is no retaliation on somebody who is insane. There is no retaliation on somebody who had committed a crime while he's asleep. He doesn't know. So there is no retaliation on those things. It has to be a person who is responsible for his actions. Adult, sane, and knowing what he's doing. Full mind. Now.
Number 2, the incident must have been intentional. This is because there is no retaliation if a person mistakenly kills another person. Therefore, this ruling must be even more so true in the case of injuries caused by mistakes.
So it has to be deliberate. And you remember regarding the death, we said how many sort of forms of killing? It's either deliberate or semi-deliberate or mistake. True or not? What's the difference between the three? Yalla. Deliberate, that this person is holding, is hitting with something, normally would kill, like shooting a gun, like a sword, and he intends intentionally to what? To kill him. Because if he was holding a sword, but he was actually showing off with his sword, he wants to show his actions, and the sword fell from his hand, went through and killed that person. That's called what? Accident. Second one, which is the what? Is semi. How is semi? Anybody tell me what is semi?
The intention was to go and kill him, but then you changed your mind.
No.
You tend to hit him but not kill him.
Yes. So you hit him with something normally does not kill. Okay? And then you killed him. But if you had hit him with a sword deliberately, the sword would kill him. Do you understand me? But you hit him with something like, for example, you made a stick and you want to hit him, you to beat him up. So you intended the beating up, but he did not intend the what? The killing. That's called semi. If I'm intended just to play with him and I hit him, that's an accident. That's an accident. Same thing is applied to the injuries. So the wound itself as well, when it is caused, now, is that wound as well will ruin the limb or not? But there's something else as well. Like, for example, I was deliberate, okay? I was deliberate to use my feather, to hit him on his eye with a feather. You know the feather? Light. and deliberately on his eye. I was deliberate. I have actually somehow touched him on a sensitive area in the eye pupil, and he lost an eye. So this feather normally will not cause such a thing. Yes, I'm deliberate, but losing the eye is what? It's not deliberate. Here there has to be blood money. Because you cannot guarantee to go and hit him with the same feather and then end up with the same, tit for tat, have taken revenge, because you might not do anything to him. So this is blood money. It will be taken. Okay? A compensation, a penalty. Because the injury itself is not really, if I cause you, the maximum I can cause with a feather, maybe I blind you a bit, but to lose your eye, completely lose your sight, it's not, okay? So that's called. So the injury has to be deliberate. If it's not deliberate, no. So if I, for example, used, a slipper, and I deliberately wanted to hit him with it, but the slipper cannot break bones. Somehow when I hit him with the slipper, he fell onto something and he broke his arm. Or he fell in a sharp thing, he cut his hand. Because I'm not deliberate in causing that. I was deliberate to hit him with a slipper. Same thing with punching into eyes, like slipping, slide. Now, if I deliberately want to, but the thing is, I'm allowed to take revenge for that actual thing. So if I slapped you, you could slap me in front of the, go and slap him. I have to slap him. Maybe I need, because my hand is small, and then somebody else, you could really appoint somebody else to slap him. Okay, because maybe you're not strong enough as the guy. He sometimes goes to the gym, you don't go to the gym. So you hire somebody to go and what? Slap him for the same thing for you. Okay? But let's say he punched you and you lost your eye, but he didn't want to punch you to lose your eye. I cannot make the punch that will lose an eye. That's not allowed, because he didn't intend to take your eye, but somehow you lost the eye. Either you push his head somewhere else and there was a rod there and poke your eye. I didn't mean that. I wanted just to punch you. You're allowed to punch him, but I'm not allowed to poke his eye. Wallahu a'lam. Right. Second thing.
Number three.
Three.
The blood of the victim must be comparable to that of the perpetrator. Thus, one does not implement retaliation upon a Muslim due to an injury caused to a dhimmi.
Because we said the Muslim cannot be killed for the what? For the dhimmi. So if it happened between a Muslim and a non-Muslim, the Muslim will be no retaliation against him, but there will be another punishment, like money, like prison, or some sort. The other one we're not agreeing with, which is the second one.
Nor to a free person due to an injury to
we
a
said
slave.
No. Slave and free are equal. Slave and free are equal. So if, for example, a free man killed a slave, the free man will be killed. Same thing with the retaliation. As for the third one,
nor to the father due to an injury to his son.
Not just the father or a mother. So the parents, father or the mother. Father or mother, if they have injured their son deliberately, then it is not allowed to retaliate. They're exempted from killing, remember? So they killed their own son. Yes, they've done a crime, but they can't be killed for that. You remember what happened? I told you a story of that. What happened at Umar al-Khattab, Abdullah ibn Amr al-Asri, it's a story that there was a man whom he had been given a female slave from Bani Mudlij, that tribe, and he had intercourse with her, so she brought him a son. Still, his mother is what? Slave. So when the child grew up, this young man, his father now is calling his mother, do this and do this for me. She's a slave. He said, until when? He said to him, until when you're going to be slaverizing my mother? He got enraged. So with his sword, he hit him on his leg. He cut his leg. He kept gushing blood until he died. So he went with his family to Umar al-Khattab. And he said to him, you are the Aduullah, the enemy of Allah, who had killed his own son. Had it been that I've heard the Prophet of Allah that there will be no retaliation from the father or against the father, against the mother, if they killed their own son, I would have killed you. Had it been I heard what? The Prophet was saying there is no retaliation if the father or the mother killed their own son. But he said the father, when the father is, because normally it's the case the father who kills, the mother does not. But the mother, if she did the same thing, she killed her son, there will be no retaliation. I would have killed you. Then he said, pay the blood money. So he paid the blood money. He brought 130 camels or 120 camels, according to the narration. So he chose Umar Khattab 100, and he gave it to the inheritors of which is the other sons and his other brothers, okay, of that son of his, and even to the slave, but he did not give any what to him, because the qatil, the killer, will not what inherit. Give him nothing, no inheritance. طيب. So we got now the third one. Now we got al-qisasu fil ataf, last one.
The law of retaliation concerning extremities.
Extremities, do you understand extremities? Hands and yeah.
There are 3 conditions that must be met before implementing the law of retaliation upon the extremities.
Number one,
Number 1, it must be possible to perform the retaliation without causing harm beyond the retaliation. Thus, it would be possible to amputate from the joints or that which is a clear end, such as the nose cartilage, which is the soft portion. There is no retaliation for a deep internal wound or for cutting off one of the forearms or for bones in general, other than the teeth.
do you remember, if there's no cutting from the joint, I can't cut except from the joint. I could take, as I said, if he cut me from the middle of my arm, I can't do that. Same thing, retaliation. But I could cut him from the wrist, no problem. I'll do the same thing, and then I take the rest in money, and that will be judged accordingly. So it has to be, he said, extremities, it has to be like it's got an end, either like, for example, the hand up to the wrist, hand up to the elbows, hand up to the armpit. Also the nose, for example, completely is being cut. But if some of it, the nose, I can't do that because I can't really be just. Because remember, the one who had transgressed, only the amount of transgression of his will be punished, but it cannot be transferred to other. So if he had done the killing or the cutting of a little bit of finger, then the rest of his finger to be retaliated with is protected. So if he, for example, cut my little finger there, I can't cut that much. So if I'm going to cut, either I'm going to have not fulfilled my cutting exactly, or I'm going to get what? More. Because you cannot guarantee the equality here, you're not allowed to cut. Do you understand that? Not allowed to cut. Because remember that even the one who transgressed, the rest of his finger, which he did not cut from you, is protected. Because of this, Islam tells you, no, you have to have what? Blood money for that. Now.
Number 2, the injured part must have an equivalent with respect to what it is called on and its side of the body.
So right by right, left by left, go on.
Thus, one cannot amputate the right hand due to an injury caused to the left, or vice versa. One cannot take retaliation against the little finger due to an injury caused to what is known in the West as the ring finger, or vice versa.
Do you understand me? So I can't cut something for that. It has to be little finger for little finger, index by index. Also,
in this case, the 2 parts do not share the same name. One cannot amputate a primary part for an extraneous one, since they are not equal in their place and importance.
So for example, let's say that you have cut a finger of somebody who's got, mashallah, 6 fingers. It happens. Yeah, somebody's got 6 fingers or 6 toes. It does happen. In Africa, full of them. Yeah. And then when deformation happens to maybe through the inheritance or something. I've seen somebody who's got 6 toes. So if somebody if you cut his 6th toe, he's not allowed to cut one of your 5 toes. Do you understand me? He's not allowed because this is extra for his. Okay. But if you cut 2 of his, then he's allowed to cut 1 and take blood money for the one, for the extra one that he has. Islam is precise with this. SubhanAllah. Fine. Third one.
Number 3, the part of the injured person and of the one who caused the injury must be equivalent with respect to health and quality. One cannot amputate a sound limb due to an injury caused to an already crippled limb.
Go on.
Nor does one amputate a complete hand for an injury done to a hand that was already missing some fingers. Okay. However, in this case, the reverse is permissible.
I'll tell you what is the reverse permissible. Let's say, for example, I have one of the hand is paralyzed. The second one is functioning. My right is paralyzed and my left is what? Functioning. My paralyzed, okay? So this person who's the transgressor, he cut my right paralyzed hand. He cut it from the armpit. Okay, but my arm is not what? It's not functioning anyway. So if you cut it or you don't cut it, doesn't affect me. I am not allowed to cut his, which is the healthy one. Do you understand that? It's not justice. But vice versa, it is. Do you understand? Vice versa, it is. So if I, for example, cut his healthy hand and he wanted to cut less, it's up to him. Is my paralyzed my right hand? Okay, I'm gonna cut it. Doesn't matter, paralyzed, no problem. But not more. So if he cut my paralyzed right hand, I can't cut his healthy right hand. But if he cut the opposite, if I cut his right hand, which is the healthy one, if he wants to go down to cut my paralyzed right hand, no problem. Do you understand that? That's you could say the reverse. Last thing before the diya.
Retaliation for intentional wounds. As for intentional wounds, there is no retaliation obligatory unless it is possible such that the injury done to the perpetrator is exactly equal to the original injury, with no increase or decrease to the injury. If equity and reciprocity can only be achieved by going beyond the amount of the original injury with great possible danger or with further harm caused, then there is no retaliation in such cases. In such cases, one has to pay the blood money.
So if, for example, he made a cut and injury in your head, you can't do the same thing because you can't be exactly the same, because that cut, it could be fatal to him. You can't cut him the same. So in such cases, the retaliation will not take place and it will be blood money. And let me just now tell you some of those things that has been narrated in our books regarding retaliation between the companions and others. So, for example, if a person said to you, "Oh, you dog," I'm allowed to say to him, "What? You dog as well." But if he, for example, said to me, "You kafir," I'm not going to allow to say to him, "You are kafir." There's no retaliation in such a thing. So I cannot retaliate with something haram in itself. Only haram for misusage, yes, but not haram in itself. Let's give an example. Tell you what, this example, let's say he cuffed me and he raped me. Raped me, Am I allowed to go and rape him? So the Sultan will tie him up and go and rape him. Am I allowed to do that? Why? Because haram in itself. Well, killing is haram. But killing can be halal. But rape is never going to be halal. Haram in itself. Do you understand that? Right. So, okay. I'll give you another example. Retaliation. He killed my cat. Am I allowed to go and kill his cat? This happens, Yakhwan, retaliation. Am I allowed? He killed my dog. I killed my dog. Am I allowed to do that? No, you're not allowed. What's the dog got to do with it? Miskin, the dog. He hasn't done anything. The cat hasn't done anything. No, it's not allowed. I can't allow it because he's the one who killed the cat. The cat did not kill me. So he killed my cat, I can't kill his cat. Those things are haram because it will transgress to something which is not your life. The life of somebody or something which is, but if it's got no life in it, then it is allowed. He burnt my garden, I could burn his garden. Retaliation. He had cut my trees, I could cut his trees. And the Prophet commanded for which trees to be burnt down? To cut Khaybar. Yes, Khaybar, with 50 days he had commanded to cut the trees because they were taking them as what? Shelter and hiding themselves in them. Huh? And I'm just saying you could take blood money for that, but I'm just saying, because retaliation, you could do that. So he scratched my car. I'm able to go and scratch his car in front of the Sultan, of course. Look at the scratch. Okay, do the scratch. I don't want money for that scratch. I want to scratch his car. Because as I said, the rage, because maybe paying the money, I'm not really satisfied. I want to do the same thing like he does to me. To feel the pain in his car. Unless his car is an old banger, you're not going to accept that. He would say, go and kick it, doesn't matter for me. So the scholars differed regarding even the money. He had burned some money from me. Am I allowed to burn the money? Because Allah Prophet didn't allow us to waste money. No, but it's not haram in itself. because I'm not wasting my time on retaliation. I want to retaliate. I want to feel the justice. Remember the Jewish man who had killed a woman by crushing her between stones? Prophet did the same. It's not because he did it because he's a Jewish. He wants to fulfill his rage against the Jews. No, it's not right. This is retaliation to fulfill the rage of the person who had, or the family who had been killed. They're killed one between stones. So we had to be between two stones. Ask those people whom their next of kin, close relatives, who have they been killed in the most horrible way. What do they want to happen to the killer? Ask them. They will tell you. I don't want them to be in prison. I want them to taste the death. Like in America, there's some of the states, Massachusetts and some of the states there, Texas, all of these states, they implement what? Death penalty. But they put them on the death row for a long, long time, years. They shouldn't do that because they're killing them every day. True or not? You imagine you're living for a week, but you know that after a week you're going to be dying. Even after a year, still, you don't like it. You like to get on with it. Okay, so the death, well, the deaths, sometimes they give them by lethal injection, sometimes by electrical, sometimes they can't make up their mind. They can keep changing. But Islam says no, the same. Between two rocks, between two rocks. Wallahu a'lam. By this, alhamdulillah, we finished up to here. We're going to give you the following the question. And the diya, inshallah, will be discussed. We don't have a class in 2 weeks' time, isn't it? Yeah. What is the hangir, huh? Yes. So we're going to have, you know everything. So there will be at least 3 classes, 3 classes being cancelled. Now, further us.
In applying the law of retaliation, said if someone cuts your left hand, then he has to cut the left hand back.
In the presence of the leader, of the judge.
I'm just trying to say, some people are right hand dominant.
It doesn't matter. Right hand dominant or something. There's no such thing. We have right to the right, left to the left.
Really?
Yeah, we don't have non-dominant and dominant. Yeah. Because even the one who is got left-handed, he could train himself to be right-handed. You know that? Yeah, right for the right, left to the left. Now, Fadl Ali. Yalla ikhwani, we need to learn how to retaliate, halal-wise. Fadl.
If a ruler gives
Don't sit at the back here. You teach it, learning bad thing here. Come here, sit down like this. Don't sit like this. Not loud. You're not allowed to sit on the wall. You, my dear child. That is not sitting on the wall. This is a bad habit. You're learning it now from the adults. Come here. Come closer, closer, Habibi. Yes. Well done. Now.
if a ruler gives a it's like a discretionary punishment, or it's like before the punishment takes place, the ruler changes. Second ruler, is he allowed to abrogate the existing decision, or does that hold its place?
In terms of retaliation?
Yes, if there's discretionary punishment and the new rule comes in place.
But the discretion in what way? Because if he cuts my hand, there is no such thing as going to be changing, regardless of who is going to be there. But give me an example where there will be discretion and it will be altering between somebody and somebody. Because he cut my eye, poked my eye, there is no such thing. But if there's ikhtilaf, I could give you a help with this. There's ikhtilaf in the madhab. For example, that the Hanafi madhab, they do not really rule regarding the deliberance. So we said it's to be deliberate. Okay, we said it's to be deliberate. So the semi-deliberate, there's no retaliation. In the, not the killing, I'm talking about the retaliation, not killing. Abu Hanifa says, no, even the semi-deliberate, there will be retaliation. So let's say you have just said that the first leader or first judge, he had ruled, okay, because it's semi-deliberate, then there will be, except for blood money. This person resigned, another person came from the Hanafi madhab. And he said, no, there will be retaliation because it's semi-deliberate. The difference among the scholars here between that. Then you have to abide by the one who is in charge. Okay, by the one who is in charge. Yeah, there will be a difference between some of the madhab regarding the deliberance and not deliberance. And now, problem.
Here you said the child, if he killed, he should be punished. But what happens if he was intentionally violent?
No, the child will not be killed. The child will be disciplined in a different way. Like, for example, he will be locked up, giving community service, but he can't be killed. You can't kill a child. A child here means the one who did not reach his puberty. He's not the one who reached 18 years old. Remember that. 18 years old, this is, 17 and a half is not a child for Islamic. Here in this eye of the law is a child, but they distinguish between 16 and 18. There are lots of things here, 16 and 18. But because this man-made law always going to keep changing. Islamic to do with puberty, as in he reached 15 years lunar system, that he finished the 15th year of the lunar system, or he had a pubic hair, or he had a wet dream. One of the three things. As a woman, another sign, which is the menses. That's the adult. So if he's a child, no way Islam will implement death penalty or retaliation penalty on him. There will be different disciplinary acts on him as the judge would deem it to be fitting. Now, Fadal.
For example, if an insane person killed someone.
So an insane person killed someone. Majnoon.
Yeah. What's his punishment?
The same thing here. If he's insane, he doesn't know what he's doing, or he knows partially what he's doing. It depends how much of insanity he's got. So if he's insane and he's a person who is normally is not dangerous, but he had killed, because when you say killed deliberately, because killed because of his mental thing was enraged, and he could be dangerous for the community, he would be locked up by the judge forever. And he will give him money and food and everything. It's not funny food. So he gave him entertainment, but he will not be allowing him to be in the community because he might repeat the act. But if it's somebody just and he didn't mean it and all of this, then there will be no action against him, nothing. Because he doesn't mean it. He's just one of those things that, the ones who are insane sometimes, they don't know the danger. So let's say he was with you in the train station, one of these underground. And he wants to joke with you, and he pushed you onto the rail, and you were killed. Okay, so nothing going to be nothing up here, because he thought you were joking to you, and he was just pushing you like this, and he thought maybe it's a nice way to go and jump or something. The insane, alhamdulillah, we are not insane. Alhamdulillah. Now,
so on the question of adulthood, so how is it determined? Is it the testimony of the suspect or their family, or how do we determine if they're adult or not? So obviously it varies.
The adulthood inspection is number one, if he's past his 15, because now these days, alhamdulillah, we have certificates of birth. At the time of the Prophet, no. Here, everything is, what is your date of birth? Wherever you go, what's your date of birth? You want to marry, you want to put bank money, what's your date of birth? What's your date of birth? So everything's documented, so we could know. At the time of the Prophet, it was not possible. So here it will be looked at different, unless there's more people would testify that when he was born. So if he's on the edge, then they will look at other signs. Either because if it's a crime, normally it is the case that the criminal will not be asked for his testimony. Was he having a dream or not? So there will be inspection on his pubic hair, like they have done at the time of the Battle of Qurayza, Banu Qurayza. Banu Qurayza, one of them is called Atiyya al-Quradi. Atiyya al-Quradi is a companion, but he got away from the death penalty. Atiyya al-Quradi is from Banu Qurayza, the Jews. And when the Jews betrayed, and the one who had ruled against their fate, whom they have accepted his rule and decision, what was that? Sa'd ibn Mu'adh. Sa'd ibn Mu'adh radiallahu. Sa'd ibn Mu'adh is the one who had given the judgment that for their fighters to be what? Killed, because they were traitors, and for the women and the children to be war booty. So now the children they're not sure, there was an inspection. They're not going to inspect them for date of birth. They're not going to inspect them as well. Did you have a wet dream or not? It's going to be the what? The only one? Pubic hair. So they would inspection, pubic hair. So they said, I am from the one who got away with it. They inspected me, they found me as a child. So let me go. And he became a Muslim, is it? One of the companions. Atiyya al-Quradi. Now, but even if listen, Ikhwani, that if the person is a child and he belongs to these believers and he died upon childhood, he will be in paradise, okay? Because he's not reached the time or the stage where he's going to be responsible and in charge of his actions. And let's just say he just reached his puberty, but he did not have in that limited time where he was adult enough information about Islam, then he will have a special test on the day of resurrection. Allah, he will not wrong you. Allah is not going to be your Lord as an injustice to the people. You're going to have a test because you didn't have the message. Now, Fadl Hamza. No, you have a question. Fadl.
Question from upstairs. They said, if someone swears at you, can you swear back at them?
Can somebody swear at me, for example? Yeah, I said, if he said to me, you're pig, you are pig. But if he said to me, may Allah damn your father, I can't say may Allah damn your father.
What about swear?
Because the father, what's it got to do with it? Do you understand that? So if he cursed my father, I can't curse his father. And that's what the Prophet said, لا تلعنوا أبا. Do not curse your own father. It's a messenger of Allah. Who's going to curse his own father? He said, yes, you're going to curse the father of your enemy, and your enemy will curse your own father. Do you understand that? That's how you curse your own father, the curse of the father of somebody. Okay? And also, he said, do not insult the religion of your enemy, because if you do so, he will insult your own religion. Don't do that. Bye.
Someone uses swear words.
Swear word. I mean, the bad words is in itself, it depends. But the Abu Bakr, he said it. Radiallahu anhu. And he said it in a. So that bad word, like for example, he said to him, Umsus Badr Allat. Badr means clitoris. Allat means the goddess Allat. So he said, basically, lick the clitoris of your goddess. That's Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. But he said it in a time, in a place. The Prophet is listening. He didn't say anything to him. Umsus Badr Allat. I mean, what are you telling me? We're going to leave the Prophet of Allah on his own? Because he said, these people who are around you ragtag, they're nothing. As soon as something happens to you, Muhammad, they'll leave you. What? We'll leave him. We, the companions, sacrifice our lives. So I would say there's other alternative words you could swear at him, which is not going to be the same as in bad, as rude as he had insulted you with. Do you understand me? Because you don't want to train your tongue onto that. You don't want to train your tongue. Remember, tolerance and forgiveness sometimes, but sometimes it's not. Some people understand the wrong message. If you don't really swear back at him, he will find that you are what? Weak. You swear back again. Now, Wallahu a'lam. Subhanakallah bihamdik.
You know the sports, when you do sports, is that, you know, like when you do martial art, football or anything?
That's not deliberate.
Deliberate, that's
Not deliberate, akhi. No, I'm playing with him. Not deliberate to go and break his bone. I'm deliberately playing with him because it's a skill. And the skill's got hazards. Professional hazards, these things. No problem, inshallah. Subhanakallah bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.